In this video, we are going to take real-world situations presented as word problems and write function rules to describe those situations. In a previous video, we talked about what function rules are and really how to come about using them. Now we're going to actually develop them, which is very cool. So in the first problem, you're given that you travel on a bus going an average speed of 40 miles per hour. You are then instructed to write a function rule to describe how the distance you travel, d, relates to the time on the bus that you spend, t. So instead of getting all bogged down in the amount of words that are here, there's really not a lot of math information they give you. You're basically being told you're traveling at 40 miles per hour on a bus. Okay, that's the first sentence. The rest of it is saying that you are going to call the distance that you travel d, we're defining variables, and the time that you travel for t. So let's kind of take that out. So d equals, and I'm just going to shorthand this, distance t equals time. That's all that this paragraph is telling you. Now, a lot of people like to come up with a table of data to explain what's going on here. Some people do the direct translation. I'm going to show you how to do this both ways. So in terms of a direct translation, if you were traveling 40 miles for each hour, that means that for every time t, so the amount of hours t that I go, I will travel 40 times that amount of time, 40 miles for each hour. So that would be the expression 40 miles for each hour, and that will give me out the total distance. So if you're good at translating things like that from a word problem, there you have it. That is our equation, and we're done. That's our function rule. Other people like to do out a table, so I'll do that now. And in this problem, I'll do a horizontal table. So we've got the t, time that we're entering in, and then our output is going to be the distance that we get out as we travel on this bus, right? Because the distance relies on the time. So after 1 hour, well, if we're going 40 miles an hour, we would go 40 miles, 40 times 1. After 2 hours, you're doing 40 times 2, which is 80 miles that we've traveled. After 3 hours, you're doing 40 times 3, which is 120 miles. And then after t hours, any amount of time that we travel for, you're going 40 times t. So you establish a pattern. And you see that it's 40 times 1, 40 times 2, 40 times 3, 40 times any amount of time t, and that will get you to your answer where the distance is 40 times t. The usefulness of a table is it organizes our thoughts and gets ourselves out of our head, especially when there's lots and lots of words. So either way, whether you're using a table or you're doing a direct translation, it will get you to your function rule. And now you can use this function rule to say, find the distance that you travel after being on the bus for 4 hours. You would do 4 times 40 is 160 miles. And there you have it, a function rule for the ages. If you're just not quite satiated enough with that explanation, I'll do a second one here for you as a little bit of bonus coverage. Your friend posts 14 times per day on social media. Write a function rule to describe how the number of posts p relates to the time in days d. Okay, so I personally prefer doing direct translation. So I read 14 times per day, and immediately what comes into my head is 14 per day. So 14d, and that will get me out my total number of posts p. So to me, this is a direct translation that works nicely. However, if it's not nice for you, draw out a table, and you can do your table vertically. I know in the first example I did it horizontally, you can certainly do it vertically. The number of days d, the output would be the number of posts p. Well, after 1 day, you're doing 14 times 1, or 14 posts. There you have it. After 2 days, you're doing 14 times 2 days, 14 posts for each day. 14 plus 14, or 14 times 2 is 28. After 3 days, you're doing 14 times 3, or 42 posts. And then after t days, oh, I put t. I guess it would be d number of days in this case. After d days, you're doing 14 per each of those days. And so you have that the number of posts is equal to 14 times the number of days. There you have it, peeps. Another example for you. It does not have to necessarily be motion, where you get a function rule. In this case, we had motion, the bus traveling. And in this case, we just had number of posts on a social media site. Function rules and translating word problems, it's a key piece to your algebraic mastery to come.